Okay, so picture this. 1960s Hollywood. Glamour, secrets, right? And maybe a little arson on the side, just for flavor.
Arson. Well, you're certainly not holding back on the drama today.
Listen, when we do a deep dive, we go all in.
Yeah.
And this time, we're diving headfirst into Crass Hartley Jr.'s Hollywood Hoo-Ha Volume 1.
I see we're tapping into our scandalous side. Tell me more. What's got you so intrigued?
This book, it's like a tangled web of secret love affairs, jealousy, and, well, did I mention possible arson?
You did mention it, yes. Though I'm still not sure what arson has to do with 1960s Hollywood, but Hartley's work always has a way of, shall we say, keeping things interesting.
Exactly. We're talking about some serious Hollywood heavyweights.
Right.
George Kennedy, Bonar Mason, and Marjorie Main. But behind those public personas, Hartley paints a very different picture.
What's fascinating here is that Hartley doesn't just rehash old Hollywood gossip. He takes these larger-than-life personalities and uses their entanglement to explore the pressures and paradoxes of that era.
It's like we're getting a glimpse behind the silver screen. Hartley describes George Kennedy, and get this sweaty voice and sprightly chest hair.
Huh.
He's in this passionate, unconventional relationship with Bonar Mason.
Yes, Bonar Mason, the lesser-known Mason brother, forever trying to step out of James's shadow. I'm familiar with his work. And by work, I mean his limericks, of course.
Right. Apparently, he channeled all his frustrations into those limericks.
A poet at heart, our Bonar.
But we can't forget Marjorie Main, the Grand Dame herself. Hartley describes her as having this larger-than-life presence.
Oh, absolutely. Even in the summary, you can practically feel the energy radiating from these individuals and the unconventional dynamic they had.
He even calls their arrangement midnight taffy pulls.
Yeah.
Which, well, I'll let you decipher that one.
Oh my. Hartley certainly has a way with words, but it's that blend of intrigue and humor that makes you want to keep reading.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, how much of their public personas were a reaction to the pressures of that time?
That's a key question. 1960s Hollywood, the studio system had such a grip on its stars, carefully controlling their image. Affairs, especially those outside the norm. Scandalous, career-ending even.
So they find solace in this unconventional bond, maybe even a genuine connection.
It's possible, especially for someone like Bonar Mason. Imagine living in the shadow of a legend like James Mason. The pressure, the need to prove himself. It's no wonder he might seek solace in such an unconventional arrangement.
And those limericks, maybe that was his outlet, his way of expressing his frustrations and insecurities with a touch of humor.
Hartley's description of Bonar is quite something. He says he looks like skeleton nags if the top layer of epidermis had been eaten away. It's humorous, sure, but there's a sadness there, too. A sense of inadequacy, perhaps.
It's like Hartley wants us to laugh at these characters, but also to feel a bit of empathy, right? They're flawed, trying to navigate love, fame, and their own demons in a world that demanded perfection.
Absolutely. And just when you think you're starting to understand their dynamic, everything changes.
Oh, this is where Richard Keel enters the picture, right?
Enter Richard Keel, stage left, and Hartley makes sure we understand the impact of his arrival.
Hold on. Before you tell me burning eyes, jawline carved from igneous rock, did Hartley just compare his gaze to the intensity of the sun?
You're catching on. It's like he's setting the stage for an epic showdown. The smoldering newcomer arrives, and the established triangle is thrown into chaos.
Classic Hollywood drama. But Hartley injects his own brand of, well, Hartliness into it, and I'm here for it.
It's classic Hartley. Heighten the drama, up the stakes, and leave us all hanging on the edge of our seats. But it's not just about the melodrama. We start to see these deeper themes emerge. Desire, control, the consequences of keeping secrets for too long.
And whoa boy, does Richard's arrival bring out those consequences. Marjorie, totally smitten. But for George and Bonar, let's just say green isn't a good color on them.
George, always the life of the party, he turns to those late-night phone calls. You know the kind. And maybe a few not-so-subtle confrontations.
Oh, I bet. He seems like a my way or the highway kind of guy.
Precisely. And this new dynamic, it throws a wrench in his plans.
But Bonar, he's got his art. He pours his emotions into those limericks, compares himself to James. Again, it's like he's trying to process this whole upheaval through his art, you know.
Hartley describes him as looking like a melted candle in a windstorm at this point. You can't help but laugh, but you also feel for the guy. He's crumbling under the pressure.
And then, just to add fuel to the fire, we have an actual fire.
Yes, the infamous general store fire.
Okay.
Quite a scene.
It's this weird place. Slim Jims, odd pie crusts. Hartley even mentions gingham suppositories. Gingham suppositories.
Only Hartley could dream up such an inventory. But it adds to the absurdity, don't you think? Like, are we supposed to take any of this seriously?
It's like stepping into one of Bonar's limericks. Funny on the surface, but underneath, something's a little off.
The fire becomes this turning point. We're left wondering, was it an accident? Or did someone nudge things along?
Especially with a line like this from Marjorie, we're all burning. Talk about ominous.
Is it about the fire? Or is she talking about the intensity of their relationships? Hartley leaves clues, but no answers.
And then there's Bonar. Leave it to him to turn a disaster into a metaphor for their whole relationship.
You know Bonar, always the philosopher.
But is he romanticizing a toxic situation, avoiding taking any responsibility?
It's a fine line Hartley walks. Humor and pathos, absurdity and genuine emotion. He never lets us get too comfortable, does he?
And then comes the confrontation. George and Richard, it's like a scene straight out of a Western.
Two alpha males battling for Marjorie's affections, or maybe just battling for the sake of it. It's like they're playing roles they think they're supposed to play, stuck in a Hollywood drama of their own making.
And it leaves us wondering, what are they really fighting for? Love? Or just the satisfaction of winning? It's something we can all relate to, right? It's like he's holding up a mirror, right? To those kind of raw, messy parts of ourselves. We've all been there. Jealousy, wanting what we can't have. It gets to you.
And just when you think it's all going to explode, Richard, he takes off for Vietnam.
Vietnam. Talk about an unexpected turn. Leaves the others to pick up the pieces, I guess.
What's interesting is that Hartley doesn't end the story there. He could have left us with all that tension, that heartbreak, but he doesn't.
So what happens?
We see George, Bonar, Marjorie. They start to rebuild the general story, I mean.
Wait, they rebuild it after everything.
Brick by brick, or at least that's how Hartley describes it. Covered in ash, but working together.
It's like that image, of the phoenix rising from the ashes. They've been through the ringer, but there's this resilience.
It makes you think about their relationship. Unconventional, sure. A little battered, maybe, but still standing.
And that's what I love about Hartley. He doesn't give us easy answers. We don't know if they'll make it, if their relationship will survive, but there's hope, right?
Exactly. He leaves us with this sense of possibility. Makes you think about love, forgiveness, all those messy, complicated things that make us human.
It's like life, throws curveballs, throws a little arson in the mix for good measure. But sometimes you come out the other side. A little singed, maybe, but stronger.
Maybe even with a newfound appreciation for gingham suppositories. Who knows?
Well, whether or not you walk away with a craving for gingham suppositories, Hollywood Hoo-Ha Volume 1 is a wild ride. And listeners, you heard it here first, right here on The Deep Dive. So until next time, keep those metaphorical fires burning, but maybe lay off the actual arson.